to all panels. My name is NURUL JAFRI, and today me and my research partner, NOOR Suhaila Idani BINTI MOHAMMAD SUHAIMI, will be presenting our applied research project with the title The Readiness of the Employers in Raising the Minimum Wage. I will start this presentation by explaining the research background. Minimum wage is an issue that has always been a concern not just for the employees but for the employees as well. This minimum wage is really important for the employees, especially with the increase of the living costs in Malaysia, and with an adequate amount of minimum wage, it could actually cover the basic expenses for the individuals such as food, shelter and also clothing. Not just Malaysia, but this minimum wage policy has been implemented by other countries as well, such as New Zealand, Australia and also United Kingdom. According to all, based on the minimum wage policy of Malaysia, the minimum wage rate in Malaysia has been increased from 1,200 ringgit Malaysia in 2020 to 1,500 ringgit Malaysia in 2022. This research study is conducted to observe the readiness of employers in raising the minimum wage, where it will look on the perspective on the employers towards the factors which could influence them, especially in raising the minimum wage for employees.
Hello and Assalamualaikum. My name is Suhaila Idani BINTI MOHAMMAD SUHAIMI, and I will continue with the problem statement. According to the Malaysian Employers Federation, the employees in Malaysia, especially those who own micro, small and medium enterprises, are not ready for the rising minimum wage since the businesses have also just begun to recover from the pandemic COVID-19. Employees will find it difficult to comply with the government's decision to raise the minimum wage by roughly around 300 ringgit Malaysia or 400 ringgit Malaysia, because businesses are still working to stabilize their economies. The economy of Malaysia will also be impacted if a large number of enterprises opt to shut down as a result of their inability to manage their company's finances. Other than that, if the employees decide to increase the minimum wage of the employees, they also need to increase other costs in the company, such as production costs and services charge that the businesses impose on the customers. In addition, since the government has failed to control the price of goods in Malaysia, it has caused the minimum wages of 1,200 ringgit Malaysia to be no longer relevant with the current cost of living. As for the research objectives, there are 6 research objectives that we analyze for our study. First one is to examine the influence of the demographic profile of the employers and their readiness to raise the minimum wage. Second, to determine the relationship between a business financial capability and the employee's readiness of minimum wage. Third one is to determine the relationship between impact of the minimum wage policy towards employers and the employee's readiness of minimum wage. Fourth is to determine the relationship between the productivity of employees and the employer's readiness of minimum wage. Last one is to determine the most contributing factors in the readiness of employers in raising the minimum wage.
Next is the conceptual framework. This research have 3 independent variables and 1 dependent variable. Independent variables consist of business financial capability, impact of minimum wage policy towards employers, and the productivity of employees. The dependent variables is the readiness of employers in raising the minimum wage. According to the research study, all these independent variables have relationship towards the dependent variable. I will be explaining more on the business financial capability and the impact of minimum wage policy towards employees. Business financial capability means that the business owners have adequate knowledge on managing a business, and with this knowledge, it could enhance the profitability of their business. This is because it could assist the business owners to make a better decision, and a business owner should actually consider various kind of aspects so that they can prevent any business failure. Next is the impact of minimum wage policy towards employers. By increasing the salary, it actually increased the cost of doing business. According to UN, by increasing the minimum wage, it will increase the labor cost as well. However, the employers might eliminate the other benefits for their employees or even lay off their employees because they are not able to afford them because of this raising of labor costs. And according to Hammermesh, when this happens, business profit will definitely be reduced, and even if the price of goods can be increased, the profit gain might not reach their target, as the demands from the consumers towards the goods might be decreased as well. And it could be seen how labor force is really important for every business to reach their target and profit.
The third independent variable is productivity of the employees. According to Covello, greater minimum salaries will lead to higher individual productivity among workers. According to the efficiency wage principle, raising salaries will motivate workers to generate more work. Employees' morale and work ethics will increase when they believe they are being paid properly for the work they do. Raising the minimum wage will promote production by lowering mental tiredness and enhancing worker physical and mental well-being. An employee may feel devoted, loyal, and attached to the organization if they receive more salary. It is also convincing that the higher salary makes them fearful of being laid off, which motivates them to put in more effort to keep their job. If the employment contract they sign specifies more hours than employees would typically work to maximize their utility, the employee may use the absenteeism to reduce their working time. Paying for more time spent at work and fewer absences might be regarded as receiving a higher income.
I will proceed with the hypothesis development for this research study. We have 3 hypotheses developed from the independent variables, and each variables have 2 hypothesis statements.
For the research methodology, firstly is the research design. The research design for this case study would be the cross-sectional design through quantitative methods. The survey relies on the primary data that is collected from the private companies around the Seremban city area. As for the unit of analysis, the research is done in the Seremban city area. Since the research is to study the readiness of employers in raising the minimum wage in the Seremban city area, therefore the unit of the analysis in this study is the employees of the organization. Next is sampling technique. Cluster sampling is a small group of sampling that is divided from the whole population. Therefore, the use of convenient sampling techniques is used, as it is a non-probability sampling method where researchers use subjects who are easy to contact and obtain their participation. Researchers find participants in the most accessible places and they impose no inclusion requirements. Next, the research instrument would be the questionnaire, where the respondents will be given a set of questions in order to collect some information that can be used in conducting the research study. As the measurement in the research studies are conducted by using Likert scale, which the item in the questionnaires as the scale given will give more choices for the respondents to choose their answers from strongly agree to strongly disagree.
The next research methodology is the data collection. This research study consists of 5 sections, which are the Section A is respondents' demographic profile, followed by Section B, the readiness of employees in raising the minimum wage. Section C is the business financial capability. Section D is the impact of policy towards the employers, and lastly, Section E is the productivity of employees. Next, for the sample size, according to the business list, there are approximately 4,500 organizations around Seremban city area, and we use 354 samples. These numbers of samples are chosen based on the table of determining the sample size of given population by Kerje and Morgan. Lastly, for the data analysis, we conducted all the tests by using SPSS, and the tests conducted are descriptive analysis and chi-square, Spearman's rank order, correlation, and multiple regression.
For the demographic profile, there are 9 questions asked to the respondents, which are gender, race, age, the establishment of the company, period of working with current company, business industry, the minimum wage paid to the employees, education level of employers, and thus the wage paid based on the working experience or academic qualifications. First one, as for the gender, the majority percentage is 55.9% for male. Next, the highest percentage for race is 40.1% for Malay, and the highest percentage for age is 42.9% presented by people in the age of 26 to 32 years old. In addition, 39.5% is the majority percentages for the company establishment for more than 10 years. As for the period working with current company, 5 to 6 years is the highest percentage with 33.3%. As for the business industry, foods and beverages is the highest percentage with 24.6%. Most of the employers paid around 1,200 to 1,300 ringgit Malaysia to the employees, as the percentage comprises to 43.5%. Then the majority percentage of the education level of the employees is bachelor's of degree with 58.5%. Lastly, 49.7% is the highest percentage for which that is paid on working experience to the employees.
I will proceed with our findings from this research study. The first objective is to examine the influence of the demographic profile of employers and their readiness to raise the minimum wage. We use chi-square test, and the results for the variables we have chosen are: for the company establishment, p-value is 0.081, for business industry, p-value is 0.117, and lastly, for how the wage is paid, the p-value is 0.128. Since the p-value for all the variables are greater than 0.05, so it can be concluded that all the variables does not have enough evidence to claim that they influence the readiness of employers in raising the minimum wage.
The Spearman's rank order correlation will be tested throughout the Objective 2, Objective 3, and Objective 4. Here shows the table interpretation of Spearman's rule and its correlation. For Objective 2 is to determine the relationship between business financial capability and the employee's readiness of minimum wage, which uses the Spearman's rank order correlation method. The result is R 0.230, which indicates that the variables have a weak relationship. So hypothesis 1, which the business financial capability brings a significant relationship with the readiness of the employees in raising the minimum wage, is accepted.
For Objective 3 is to determine the relationship between impact of the minimum wage policy towards employers and employers' readiness of minimum wage, which also use the Spearman's rank order correlation method. The result is R equals to 0.427, which indicates that the variables have a strong relationship. So, hypothesis 2, which there is an association between the impact of the policy towards employers and the readiness of the employers in raising the minimum wage, is accepted.
For Objective 4 is to determine the relationship between productivity of employees and the employee's readiness of minimum wage, which use the Spearman's rank order correlation method. The result is R 0.499, which indicates that the variables have a strong relationship. So the hypothesis 3, which is there is a relationship between the productivity of employees and the readiness of the employees in raising the minimum wage, is accepted.
Lastly, the Objective 5 is to determine the most contributing factors in the readiness of employers in raising the minimum wage. We use the multiple regression where from the results, it shows that the productivity of employees have the highest beta, which is 0.352 compared to business financial capability 0.081 and impact of minimum wage policy towards employers 0.241. So it can be concluded that the productivity of employers is the most contributing factors in the readiness of employers in raising the minimum wage.
Next, I will explain about research implication. The first implication is that the business should always be responsibly managed. This is because without having a business financial capability and literacy, it will be hard for the business to fully utilize the resources that they have, and they are not able to enhance the growth of their business. The second implication is increase in labor costs. When the employees are not able to afford the labor costs, it will lead them to lay off their employees, and the employers will fully utilize and maximize the services of their available employees. Increases in labor costs may cause businesses to reduce labor hours or switch from full to part-time employment, which has a significant impact on the employees' pay. The third implication is employers that look out for the employees' well-being will be appreciated more, this resulting in a positive outcome of the employees' tasks and their productivity while doing their job. Besides, the employees will also increase the capabilities and skills that they have so that they are able to perform well and consequently could also improve the profit gain of the organization. Thus, it actually proves how a high level of job satisfaction actually shows a positive and good relationship between the employers and employees.
During the research conducted, there were several limitations that we have faced. Firstly, lack of participation from organization. Our questionnaires were rejected by some of the organizations and they chose not to participate in this research study, which it actually affected our timeline target, especially during the data collection process. Other than that, is limited access to the organization's information. Even though we keep the name of organization that participated in this research anonymously, however, because of some question requires about income, so they do not want to share it was quite hard for us. And lastly is lack of sources. This is because a lot of past studies have been conducted towards this minimum wage, but mostly on the employee's perspective. If we are able to gain more sources, it will definitely be more helpful and for us to get the best results for this research study. I will proceed with the future research suggestion. Firstly, to expand the research area. This is to ensure that the research study is accurate as possible, especially if there is abnormality exists in the sample. Next is to make the survey question more precise. When the question is explained clearly and precise, it will help the respondents to understand the context better and allows them to give their honest and accurate opinions towards the research topic. Lastly is to give more time to the respondents in answering the questionnaire, especially when the question needs their fully understanding towards the topic. Besides, their response are not able to be recollect, so it is really important to ensure that the respondents have the adequate time to answer it, and it will definitely strengthen the results of this research conducted.
As for the recommendations, firstly, to monitor the implementation of minimum wage policy in organizations. To ensure that this policy is implemented well, the government should always monitor it so that there will be no discrimination happen. So since the employees do not have that much power in this matter, government should always monitor the implementation of this policy at the same time, make this policy a success. Other than that, provide more training programs for the employees. From this research study, it could be seen that the most contributing factor for the readiness of employees in raising the minimum wage is the productivity of employees. So through training program, it could improve the productivity of employees, and it does not just would give benefits to the employees as individuals, but it could also be beneficial towards the performances of the organization. As a conclusion, based on the findings, it shows that all independent variables, business financial capability, impact of the minimum wage policy towards employers, and the productivity of employees has a significant relationship with the dependent variables, the employees' readiness of minimum wage. The study also highlighted the productivity of employees was the most contributing factor in the readiness of raising the minimum wage of the employers. This study strongly proposes that employees are willing and ready to raise the minimum wage based on their employees as well. Employees who give a good return to the company will benefit the employer, as well as they can give the best salary to the employees. The minimum wage policy is intended to be a step in the right direction toward promoting a more equitable wage structure, as well as to help promoting the greater value added economic activity and higher skill job. I think that's all for our presentation. Thank you.